So in order to attract your attention at that late time of the day, I would like you to read that, please. This is sometimes the same when you visit classes and sitting in the back of the classroom, not being able to read what's written on the blackboard. So I'm sorry for that, but didn't have the appropriate marker for that. I thank very much those colleagues who joined us in our discussion group. We've got some concrete feedback on the draft of our document, of our tool set. Just to summarize the most important feedback, we've got information that there is very positive, seen that there is a practical background, that it was very comprehensive, and there's the coherence of toolset, and that is user-friendly. What is probably more important for the next steps of work at the EPNoSL level for the toolset, not just for the one we presented, are some questions that were raised by the colleagues who took part in the discussion. As for example, how are we going as EPNoSL network to motivate people to use the toolset? What are we doing to motivate them? What are the next steps to promote the toolset? What are we going to do with that? One interesting question, is there probably a contradiction between the different toolsets of the 7 or 8 partners? Are they driving in the same direction? Should there probably be a kind of harmonization? Another question was put forward, how is the message of the different toolsets being delivered? Is there the need of multiple advertisement and different paths to access the toolset? There was the question of asking for money for it. Are there any costs to be taken into account? The question of access to the toolset was raised. And finally, one very important question regarding the sustainability of the toolset is, how are we going to update the toolset after 2, 3, 4 years when ideas are changing regarding the EPNoSL idea? So many questions. I'll write that down and send it to you, Andreas, and Pablos, and of course also to Kati, so that the network as a whole can work on that. Thank you.
Thank you for all of you that came to the discussion on the policy response toolset. We were a bit concerned, myself and Sophie, when we produced this, not knowing what the response would be like. It's a little bit out there, to say that it's possible for some people, but actually we were extremely pleased that we got a very positive response from the people who attended the discussion, and also some very constructive advice as to how potentially we could move forward with the animation, both in terms of the way in which maybe it was potentially shot, and some of the software that's available to bring close-ups into it, so that people could identify the figures. Maybe the possibility of adding a few more words so that the narrative was a little stronger in terms of understanding what the symbolism was of some people moving one way then having to move back. Whether it needed a stronger edit in terms of maybe the shark was on screen for a little bit too long. Whether we could use particular colours to symbolise certain things a little bit more strongly. Whether it was appropriate to have a person with a hammer in something which was talking about equity and inclusion, but when we thought it was meant to be a brush, well, clearly we need something with some bristles on the end of it, rather than something that's just a block. So there was a lot of things there that was felt that we could do, which we will take away, which we will utilise. It was felt by the people in the group that there was a lot of potential for that medium, because actually it was out of the box, but maybe it would, as a primer, instill and act as a catalyst for getting people to think and discuss things, a bit like a French movie that you see and you don't understand what's just happened. That you could sort of take that with you and then use that as a platform to move forward. So if it was at the beginning of something in terms of a document that was talking in more depth about policy and policy engagement and enactment, but at the beginning was shown and said, okay, that's what you've seen, this is what we make about it from our research. Now let's start discussing about it in a little bit more depth and so on and so forth. And we thought maybe it was a useful catalyst for that sort of thing, in a way which was light and humorous and not too difficult to engage with across whatever cultural and social context you may be viewing it in. And so, yeah, we're going to take away a lot of positives for that. So thank you once again from myself and Sophie. I hope you enjoyed it. We certainly enjoyed making it, and hopefully we'll show you something a little bit more polished, a little bit more refined at another time in the near future. Thank you.
From the Autonomy Group, first, thank you for those who attended, both of you. We agreed that the build-up of the tools that could work, it was agreed that it would probably work, but the questions are very difficult, and I think they cannot be made easy. Maybe easier in the way they are formulated now, but they cannot be made easy. We also agreed that we cannot make action plans. We cannot make plans on how to do it, because as illustrated by the OECD, the situation in the countries are so different that we cannot make one size fit all. That would be not very smart. But then we have an illustration of how things work, because we were looking at the OECD steps there, and as the two other people were from Hungary, we started to talk about the pressured situation or autonomy in Hungary. That's a very diplomatic way to say it. Thank you.
I also have to thank everybody that was in the discussion of stakeholders collaboration tool set. I think we can say that we are in a good way, because the questions that the attendants to the discussion raised are really concentrated in question number 1 and number 2. Who are the education stakeholders? Actually, it was one question that we have to answer as stressing our definition of stakeholder, the ones having specific interests and direct responsibilities in the education delivery process and outcomes. Another question was about a specific stakeholders, the parents, and how the parents really are not informed and involved in school, in the sense that they have as rights as a duty in the system, including the duty of taking decisions on curricular issues. It was also addressed by Esther, the question of European recommendations and how those recommendations are not taken into account in national policies. And the question of structures existing in each European country for facilitating or hosting that collaboration was also stressed. So it seems to me that all the points raised were good points from the discussants, so we thank them very much. It's very nice to know that we are in a good way, but a lot of work is still to be done. So thank you very much.
Do you know the program on Discovery Channel where teams have work in a garage and there are hundreds of parts laying there and they must build a car? This is this is the challenge that we do now with the tool sets. There are a few things that I would like to emphasize. It should be a European tool, and that is a challenge because there is nothing like a European big nation. It's so different. So be aware of the fact, if you talk about the central level in Holland, you have a quite different discussion than in France, for instance. So you have a lot of examples. I would say stay away from a load of paper. People are not reading all these papers. Make it comprehensive and easy to access. That people have said that before. Easy to use, simple, and be aware of the fact that maybe in 1, 2, or 3 years you should have updates, and in this way I think it's important that you don't have to write it all over again, but that you can easily update it with the newest ideas, or maybe use participants and users to update the tool with new ideas that are coming out of the field. There's also a lot of developments in the field. Thank you.
At this point of time, it's hard to add anything new. Actually, I would have said the same that Philip presented from the DL workshop, because I was in his session. And what Ton just said, I can only support. There is one addition I would like to make. It is a European project, and when we produce the tool sets, we should also keep in mind that from the technical side, we must keep it an international thing. So if we have films or something like that, we need to make sure that there can be translation both in oral or written form. And that should be thought of from the very beginning. Apart from that, I have nothing new.
A few words from the Swedish Ministry of Education too. I have noticed some words when I was listening. Complex policy context, central local level, policy reflections, policy engagement and implementation, accountability in different perspectives, responsibility and room for maneuver. And how can we use these words and the tool sets as a whole when we are planning, for instance, new reforms or new initiatives? The toolset can help us, I'm sure. They can inspire, we can analyze, and we can reflect on different parts of school leadership with focus on a good school leadership and responsibility for equity and learning. But we must all and always remember that member states have their own autonomy to decide about developing or not developing school leadership in their own context. In a decentralized system as the Swedish, something can and will happen on national level, and some things can't happen there that can only happen on local level. That's a reality for us. And on the other hand, we have other systems which are very centralized instead. So the toolset's task, if they can have a task, must be to contribute to knowledge, discussions and reflections. That's very good, and that's good enough. Thank you.